This is me. So I'm a coach at Photobox, also a business, personal and executive coach. I'm not here today to tell you about Photobox. I'm not going to wax lyrical about what we do. I'm not going to try and sell you any accreditations. I'm just going to tell you a few of my views, I suppose, and try to give something back. So, Agile coaching, is there such a thing? So I asked myself this about a year ago, or a little bit less than a year ago, when I was leaving my last role, and I was actually coming here, and I was wanting to know what an Agile coach was. And the reason, I can see you laughing because I'm pacing up and down, and the reason was that I was in my last role for such a long time. The Agile coach role kind of came about whilst I was in my last role. So even though I knew I worked in that type of way, I didn't know what the outside world expected. And everyone likes to pigeonhole themselves, and I kind of wanted to know what to expect. Why is that not working? So, this is probably a definition of Agile that you may have seen. Is this reality? Not really. Might be in some companies, but it's generally not a reality out there. So I keep going on and off. Is it the perception out there? Probably more so. There are more companies which think like that than aren't. And why is that? It's because there's a lot of people out there doing this thing wrong. A lot of false Agile, a lot of people selling stuff they don't really know what they're doing. A lot of people buying in people to Agilize a company when they want a badge but don't actually want to change. So what happens is it fails, and then they say this Agile thing doesn't work, and you just want to scream because you think you haven't even tried this Agile thing. Got nothing to do with Agile coaching. Although I think it does. I think we're in danger of going down the same road as this. Click twice. So, there is no common definition of an Agile coach. Everybody thinks an Agile coach is something different. Probably every one of you will think something different if I say Agile coach. If you go to any recruiter, they will think something different. And if you go to any company you're hiring in, they will think something different too. So this is what happens. You have a mismatch in expectations. So you're never going to hit that sweet spot where everything's working really, really well. So, first thing I want to do is I want you guys to help me define what we think an Agile coach is, which is what this is for. So I could have had you all sitting down, and I could have got you all putting your hands up for certain things, but then I can't really see what's happening. I want to see you guys moving around, because what will happen is you will change your mind on this. You're not going to stay in one place. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to give you 9, I think, options. And they could all be correct, and they could all be wrong. But the idea is you probably will start to go to the first option. Well, that might be hard because there's not much space. But then as I say each one, move to what you think most suits. Okay? It's clear as mud. So the question, what do you think matters most? So what do you think matters most to an organisation in terms of what Agile coaching is and what an Agile coach is? Okay? Oh, come on. So, do you think it's a hero? Do you think it's someone who is an expert at everything? An expert in their domain, expert in the way they work, absolutely top of their role with everything? That's A. Do we think this thing isn't working? Oh, come on. Do you think it's a focus on accreditation? I actually took that from someone's LinkedIn profile. Amazing. Do we think that you believe that we need to be professionally accredited? Do you think it's a focus on structure? Do you think an Agile coach is someone who manages other Scrum Masters? Or Scrum Masters? Nobody's moving at the moment. Do you think it's a focus on delivery? Do you think it's about making sure the company are getting what you say that they're able to get? Do you think it's a focus on people? Hey, there's someone moving. Do you think, so this was kind of Scrum Master ++, do you think after 2 years in your role you become a coach? And this one is, do you think it's a focus on scale? Do you think it's horizontal or vertical scaling? Do you think it is getting things working across the company? Do you think it's a focus on change? Do you think it's about business transformation and culture? Do you think it's the opposite end of the scale to the top one? Do you think you don't need any skills, you don't need any domain knowledge? I don't know which one's which.
I'll turn it off.
Is the other one on?
Good.
I've got 2 things to hold now. Okay, cool. Right. Whoa.
You have a sliding scale between D and E.
Well, let's wait till the next question. Because this is the whole point of it. It's not actually where you're standing now. It's this next question is, what do you think the organisation thinks matters most? Excuse me.
Go over it. Depends on how mature they are.
Well, yeah, that's
There's a lot of D's.
There's a lot of D's, but then I walk into places and they want change.
You're talking
and
our
they want
organisation,
culture.
right?
They want you to
Not generally
restructure the
speaking.
business so they're organised around goals. You
Absolutely, they want everything. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
why I just want to do this. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do this.
So the whole point of this was that you're all standing in different places. So you've all got different views. And I've just asked you what is from the company's point of view. And you've then changed places. So you're seeing the companies are thinking different things. So there's a complete difference of opinion on what an Agile coach is. So you can kind of move back out and spread out. So I'm going to muddy the waters a little bit more. So just to throw this into the mix, Agile coaching is not coaching.
Is that a question?
No,
So why?
it's my view, it's a statement.
Okay. It's a statement.
That's kind of separate, although I can see why you think that now. So, why do I say that? So you've probably seen this. This is the Agile Coaching Competency Framework. Been around for a long time. It's well known. I am going to focus on teaching, mentoring and professional coaching. So teaching, you'll probably hear something like this. The best way to do that is like this. That's instructive. That's directive. Mentoring, that's interesting. Have you thought about doing it this way? That's advisory. That's providing opinion. Coaching, a little bit more like, how do you feel about your approach? What do you think you could do to improve it? That's about drawing out the solution, other people's point of view. You're not imparting your knowledge upon somebody. Agile coaching is pretty much everything in red. And I like to think of it, since you're all Agile people, as T-shaped. It's a T-shaped Agile coach because you're doing a bit of everything. Whereas a coach concentrate on coaching. They're a specialist. They're a specialist in mentoring and teaching as well. A teacher, for instance, for teaching. And they tend to stay in, I'm going to push the wrong thing. I'm not going to push anything just in case. They tend to stay in that area. They live with coaching. That's pretty much what they do most of the time. Whereas an Agile coach tends to stay more around teaching and mentoring. They may do a bit of coaching. And the reason is because that's quite, I'm just going to say that's quite easy. It's easier to get results because you're telling people or you're suggesting something, and it's quicker and easier to see that people are doing things. Whereas coaching is about trying to get people to come to that conclusion themselves. And if you do that, it's a lot slower and a lot harder, which is why companies don't like that approach a lot of the time, because they want to see results. But if you're able to do that, it sticks. It's not so sticky with the other two methods. I'm going to blame you, Al, for this. So, this is just going to show that I only put this together today. This was a conversation I was having yesterday on LinkedIn. And this goes to show that people don't understand what an Agile coach is. More so, people don't actually understand what coaching is, including Agile coaches and coaches. So there was a thread put up by a well-known coach, not going to say any names, well-known Agile coach, sorry, who happens to be a coach as well. And it was something like, to be an Agile coach, you need to have lots of Agile experience. I agree with that. And to be a business coach, you need to own your own business. I don't agree with that. And to be an executive coach, you need to have been an executive for years. I really don't agree with that. To me, that shows a complete misunderstanding of what coaching is. And what dismayed me was about 70% of the people who were applying on this thread were all, well, 70% of them, not all, but they were agreeing. Come on. So, oh, two things, bloody hell. Double clicked. So, in 1974, Tim Galway wrote The Inner Game of Tennis. This is a seminal book. It's basically where business coaching came from. Cut a long story, really, really short. He proved that you could coach tennis players better by not knowing anything about tennis. Which is quite interesting because when we looked at these, I had a 0 on here. 0 is probably the best place for a coach, whereas everything else is probably better suited for an Agile coach. Something else which was on that thread, somebody had said, the cold face of Agile coaching is software development. I don't agree with that either. To me, that shows a misunderstanding, because it's all about business agility and trying to get this working in across a company. That's about getting it working in a development team. So there were some good things I took from this thread. One of them was this. Oh, come on. This was another quote by someone, and it's, in the end, it comes down to whether you need real coaching or something diluted and biased. I like statements like that because it's quite controversial. And it shows to me coaching, teaching and mentoring. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't read that as a bad thing. You do the thing which is most needed. You coach when you need to coach, you mentor when you need to mentor, you teach when you need to teach. And it fits in with something I said a long time. Sorry, Al. Oh, bugger. I'm just going to click this.
We can push buttons for you.
I'll just point at you.
Yeah, cool.
So, I dug this out. I said it a while back. Agile coaching is the art of knowing when to apply and how to switch between teaching, mentoring and coaching skills for best effect. To me, that's what an Agile coach is. And yet we call it an Agile coach, and yet it's only one of the things that we should be doing. And to be honest, I don't think many people do that too often. So if I go back to the coaching framework, it's not actually called an Agile coach. It's called an Agile and Lean practitioner, which I found interesting. And when you look at all the things you're supposed to do, there's only one part of it which is coaching. But we call it an Agile coach. And that represents that I don't think too many people are actually doing that, the coaching aspect. So, what can we do? We've got all of this misconception out there. What can we do to change that? Well, potentially change the name of the role. I've called an Agile Guide, can be called anything. I'm not wedded to that. The fact is, it doesn't say coach, it gets rid of those misconceptions. But it's too simple to say just changing the name of something is going to actually change the world we live in. So we probably need to do something else. We need to be clear. You guys need to be clear with who you work for, who you're being recruited by, but also they need to be clear with you. You need to understand exactly what you're getting. So you probably need something like this. You probably all need a badge where you say you're an Agile Guide, and this is the type of Agile Guide I am. I'm really good at coaching, I'm really good at mentoring. Not so good at this, and not so even less so good at that. But it shows what type of guide you are. It's just an idea. I'm not here to give answers, I'm just throwing it out there. So are you an Agile Coach? If you're actually coaching, then yeah, you're an Agile Coach. What I would say to you is carry on doing that. Go with coaching first, and if those things aren't quite working, then move into mentoring and teaching. If you start the other way, you're going to suppress what people really think and really want to talk about. However, you're probably not. I mean that in the best possible way. You're more likely an Agile Guide. And that's great. You're doing all of this other stuff, you're T-shaped, you're doing all of this stuff. But I think that's what we should be, doesn't have to be guide, but I think that's what we need to be selling ourselves as. Just be proud of it. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
One. Do you think the companies, and especially HR or even worse, top management, are aware of what they buy when they hire an allegedly Agile Coach?
Absolutely not. Yeah, simple answer. See it all the time. And one of the things we've just done here, we've just instantiated a coaching service. It's not Agile Coaching, an actual coaching service. And the most common thing that happens is someone will come to me and say, oh, okay, cool, what are you going to coach me on? How are you going to tell me to do this? It's not what coaching is. You spend a lot of time explaining what coaching is. Don't think people get it. They get it when you talk to them about it, but it's right back to the crux of the problem. Everybody thinks it's something different. I've been for interviews before. I know plenty of people who've been for jobs where they want an Agile Coach, they talk about everything they want, and when you actually get down to it, they want a delivery manager. What's this coaching crap? I don't want that. I want you to tell people what to do.
Hi. Can you, just for the people that aren't Agile Coaches or delivery managers, can you explain the difference between like an Agile Coach and a delivery manager, please?
I can tell you from my point of view, and this is kind of the point of this, there is no definition.
Yeah, sorry.
So for me, if I was setting something up, I'd have the delivery aspect and the coaching aspect as two separate things. Because I think once you've got skin in the game, so if you're responsible for delivery, you can't really coach somebody because you're going to be trying to drive them to an outcome. To really truly coach, you need to be separated from it. So for me, I'd split them apart. I think they're two completely different roles.
So saying they're two separate roles, which I agree with, how would you then explain the AGM?
That's a very good question. I don't know. And my usual response to that is, I haven't got a clue what an ADM is. Well, generally an APM. I don't know. I think it's I'm guessing it's because companies generally hear about this Agile thing. This Agile thing's really good. We're doing really well. Let's get someone in to help do this. Go do this delivery Agile. Like, not accepting that they have to change. It's all about change. It's all about people. They see it as figures, deliveries. Roll this out. You know, shiny, shiny, shiny. That's the only way I can explain it. That's what I see.
Would you say that the Scrum Master or the Agile Coach is obviously more about the people and ensuring that they're working in a sustainable way, whereas the product manager is more about the delivery. It's more about just get it done, whilst the Scrum Master's going, hang on, I need to test the temperature of my line and see that they can deliver it as and when without them sort of being overspent.
Personally, I think so. You know, I like to split out those separate things. You know, the delivery and the people side, I think, have to be different, but you have to get them to work in tandem. I think Scrum Master role and the Agile Coach role are two different things. I think there is crossover there. I don't think it's a more senior version. I think it's a completely different thing. But yeah, I would agree with what you've just said.
If you are to hire an Agile Coach, what job description would you have for it?
What's my perception?
No, job description, what would be the job description?
I'd start with something simple as I'm going to try and help people be as best they possibly can. In fact, I can't see one. All the posters we put up for our new coaching service based it around Marvel. I've titled it Be Marvellous. There's pictures of superheroes about unleashing your powers. You'll see them around as you walk around, but to me it's about enabling people to be the best they can possibly be, which in turn now seems to be as best they could possibly be. Sorry, go ahead.
That's it. I'm just wondering what sort of challenges you've come up against, because often part of what we have to do, I'm with an agency to build apps, and we have to sell to our clients the value of an Agile Coach, and they often think that's the first thing they can get rid of if they're trying to go lean. How do you go?
I don't always do it successfully, for starters. You can't win everybody over. The way I did it here, or partially did it here, was I know the leadership team have executive coaches. And I posed the question that if you have an executive coach and you don't think it's valuable, why have you got an executive coach? If you've got an executive coach, you must feel it's valuable. So therefore, let us do that for everybody else. So that's the way I did it here. In other places, it's been unsuccessful in some. It was unsuccessful at the end of my last company. For 6 years, it was really successful. It's the best answer I'll give you. It's a case-by-case basis. It's just a case of seeing what everybody needs and seeing how you can help persuade people that it's the best thing to do. I know that doesn't really answer, but there's not a clear-cut answer I can give you on that.
Hi. Thanks. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
So is someone with just normal coaching skills and can become an agile coach, or have you know examples of people who were just pure coaching background? They did not know much about agile.
They're not mutually exclusive. So you get agile coaches which are great coaches and vice versa. I just see that a lot of people fall into the Agile Coach role because of things like, I've been here 2 years, I'm now an Agile Coach, I can get more money by calling myself an Agile Coach, any of those reasons, but don't actually understand, they can do really well, but the real power is the coaching element. It's just not mutually exclusive. I just don't see a lot of people which do both successfully together.
Most of them are agile guides.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's the whole point of this. I was just trying to make a point of, let's get rid of the confusion out there. By having that word coach in there, it makes it more confusing than it needs to be.
Hi. Yeah, I've heard before that the success measure of an Agile coach is their ability to remove themselves from the team. How far do you agree with that?
People say that about every role. And I kind of agree, but people can always improve. Even if you're just talking about a Scrum Master role, teams do this. I'm not just talking about in the delivery, but I mean they become really mature. Someone leaves, it dips down. It never gets to a point where that actually happens. You can end up, say you're working 2 or 3 teams, you can end up working really light touch and working with other teams, and all of a sudden the other team just falls through the floor. We've had that with some teams here. It's always in flux, so even though I hear that about every role, not just an Agile coach role, I very rarely see it.
Thanks.
Coming?
You notice, like, in the industry that we've, like, attached coach to, like, the Agile discipline. Like, why do you think it is that we don't see for the other disciplines, like, the idea of, like, a tech coach or a design coach, different words like, could be tech lead, creative director type stuff? Like, why do you think coaching married itself with that?
I honestly don't know. And because that is the point, is I don't know why they've called it a coach, because it's not a coach. Although, if you look up coach in the dictionary, what I would deem as a coach, and coaches would deem as a coach, isn't coaching. They call mentoring coaching. So if you think of a football coach, they're actually a mentor or a trainer. So it's just different across different industries. But coaching as a term, I don't know why that's married itself to this, because it was one aspect. And to me, personally, I think it's the most important aspect. It's what you should start with. But it seems to be the bit which seems to be forgotten most of the time. Any more? Nope. Cool. Thank you.